Okay. Hello, everybody in Crime in America. As I promised, you are now getting the final exam review. I hope it's very helpful for you. And good luck. Remember this. Federalist, the word Federalist is a term used to describe American nationalists who had been increasingly critical of our first Constitution and had advocated advocated for a stronger and more centralized national government. If you see that question, the answer, yeah, that's true. In 1764, the Sugar Act signaled British intentions and provoked colonial anger. Yeah, that's true. And this would be considered extraordinary. One of the first laws that targeted immigrants coming into the U.S., into the United States, were the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. In this case, the Supreme Court interpreted Article 3 of the Constitution as allowing one state to bring suit against another state. What court case is that? That would be the court case of Chisholm v. Georgia. Chisholm v. Georgia. The Reagan era also brought a new type of threat. That was the threat of terrorism. Crime rates leveled off in the 1980s after a two-decade rise in the 1960s and the 1970s. America witnessed the most significant decrease in the history of the Uniform Crime Reports during the 1990s. You see a question like that, stated like that, that's true. The motivations behind the 1969 Tate LaBianca murders, orchestrated by Charles Manson, are undoubtedly the most bizarre in the history of the American crime scene. That's true. The year 1968 ranks with the winners of 1860 through 1861 and 1932 and 1933 as among the worst times in America's generally fortunate history. Racial violence replaced the measured and peaceful process and progress of the earlier years. So if you see a question like that, the answer is true. That statement is true. The 1950s brought new approaches to assisting troubled juveniles. The teachings of John Dewey, Karen Horney, Carl Rogers, and Eric Fromm, among others, gained prominence during the years. That's true as well. In 1950, the Kefauver Committee began to hold its hearings on organized crime, officially known as the Senate Special Committee to investigate organized crime in interstate commerce. It was the nickname, it was nicknamed for the chair, Senator Estes Kefauver of Tennessee. Good information for you to remember for the test. One of the extraordinary cases of the war years was that of Alger Hiss. It's an interesting bit of trivia, isn't it? Socialist Gary Lafree has stated that the most important political factor that impacts crime in America has to do with the trust we Americans place in our political institutions. It's an astounding statement, but it's true as well. Here's another bit of interesting trivia that we should know. I think you do know that already. Policing in the world did not formally start until what year? 1829. was not until the beginning of the 16th century that many European countries began to see a rising problem of poverty, and as a result, a growing problem with crime. It's another interesting bit of trivia. The most renowned of the extraordinary crimes during the period, the Village period, 1607, 1699, was the Salem witchcraft incident. England began to expand its world power starting in the late 16th century with voyages to Newfoundland, West Indies, and with the founding of the failed Roanoke colony. The system of corrections during the Village period of the colonial era was supposed to be a direct application of the British system of punishment. Yeah, that would be true. In the aftermath of the murder of Megan Kanka, in the aftermath of the Megan Kanka murder case in New Jersey, where the 7-year-old Megan was sexually molested and murdered by a known sex offender who was living near the Kanka household, the laws known as Megan's Laws actually came into being. It's a tragedy, but that's how Megan's Laws came to be. It's true. Which law enforced the 18th Amendment? Well, that would be the Volstead Act. Who was the military police chief who played a significant role in the Lindbergh baby kidnapping investigation? Well, that would be H. Norman Schwarzkopf. He's the father of renowned General Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf. Just another bit of interesting trivia. Which trial involved two individuals who confessed to kidnapping and murdering a 14-year-old for a, quote, intellectual thrill? That would be Leopold and Loeb, and that would be the Leopold and Loeb trial. This was an interesting bit of trivia. What replaced the Irish sweepstakes in 1987? That would be the state lottery. The state lottery, and I'll bet you some of you played the state lottery. I think I played it a few times. So when did Prohibition in the United States end? That would be 1933. What was the main objective of the Prohibition in the United States? Well, the answer there is to promote temperance. Here's a bit of information I know we all remember. Changes in the practice of law began taking place during the Jacksonian era. Remember, that's changes in the practice of law. The changes that were transforming the American political landscape in the early 1800s are often labeled the Jacksonian democracy. That's the early 1800s. They're labeled the Jacksonian democracy. If you see a statement that says trained police officers or trained police forces did not exist in the American colonies, and the peacekeeping methods were mostly ineffective, that would be a true statement. During the colonial era, the town period, piracy and smuggling were becoming serious crimes for England, but not so much for the colonies. I think that would be true as well. The federal government also became involved in legislating in the area of crime for the first time in 1853. Prior to the Civil War in 1857, the nation slipped into a depression, generating an increase in property crimes. That's true. Although perhaps most famous for his 1859 raid on Harper's Ferry Ammunition Depot, John Brown was an abolitionist who was known for a number of crimes he committed. So it wasn't just that. That would be true. This act authorized the president to negotiate removal treaties with Indian tribes living east of the Mississippi River, primarily in the states of Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, and others. The goal was to remove all Indian or American Indians living in the existing states and territories and send them to unsettled land in the West. What are we talking about? Well, that was the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Another interesting bit of information, one of the strictest and most controversial laws to be passed by Congress during the Jacksonian era was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. I think you'll find this remarkable because I know we've discussed it, but because colonial America operated under the English common law prior to the War for Independence, children were held accountable for their acts after their 7th birthday. That's amazing. Held accountable for their acts after their 7th birthday. Okay, that's it. Thank you to all of you for putting up with me. Good luck on your exam. And I say thank you to our guest speakers as well for talking in our classes. Enjoy your holidays.